Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're going to explore the top news headlines for April 26th.
Okay, where do we start?
Let's begin in Nigeria. There's news concerning alleged financial wrongdoing.
Right. The EFCC, that's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, they've put out alerts for 4 individuals.
Who are they?
Adefowora Olanipekun, Adefowora Oluwanesola, Emmanuel Uko, and Say Oluede. They're wanted in connection with alleged fraud involving the CBEX platform.
CBEX, that's the crypto bridge exchange.
Exactly. And what's really striking here is the role of the Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, OSBC.
The state-owned radio.
Yeah. Apparently, they actively promoted CBEX, pitched it as some kind of, genuine poverty alleviation scheme.
Wow. That's quite something for a government station.
It really is. There's even a quote floating around from a CBEX official on an OSBC broadcast saying they wanted to make life easier for Nigerian people, even petty traders.
And the OSBC presenter just went along with it.
More than that, reports say the presenter actually praised CBEX, saying it was bringing fortune to Nigerians.
Unbelievable. And now CBEX has crashed.
Completely collapsed. And predictably, it's led to huge financial losses for, countless Nigerians who put their money in.
You see the human cost of this stuff online, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. The reactions on platforms like TikTok and X are just heartbreaking. There's one woman, Pretty Nikki Babe, in tears on video, savings gone.
Terrible.
And another, Bola, filmed weeping at a looted CBEX office in Ibadan, said she lost her $200 plus $1,000 she'd collected from friends. Life savings, apparently, from working in Libya.
Oh my good.
Then there's Ogununanchido Esther talking about her family losing $1,000. Just utter despair.
And did anyone warn about this platform?
Well, that's another point. Bashir Ahmad, the former presidential aide, he pointed out that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, had actually warned people about CBEX before, said it wasn't registered.
So the warnings were there, but maybe didn't get enough traction. Or weren't heeded, is questions, doesn't it?
It really does. Questions about oversight, media responsibility, the whole thing.
Okay, let's shift to focus. International news now. A big explosion in Iran.
Yes, in the port city of Bandar Abbas, reports are saying at least 115 people injured.
Where exactly did it happen?
At the Shahid Rajeh port. It's a major hub, handles containers, oil, petrochemicals, way down south, over 1,000 kilometers from Tehran.
And the information is coming from?
Iranian emergency services, state media, and Al Jazeera citing the customs authority there.
Do we know which part of the port?
Yeah, it seems to have been in the Sina Container Yard, which is linked to the Ports and Maritime Organization.
Any word on why it happened?
Not yet. The head of crisis management for Hormozgan province, Mirdad Hassanzadeh, confirmed the injured were moved to hospitals, and interestingly mentioned prior safety warnings had been issued for that site.
Safety warnings?
Yeah.
But the cause is still unknown.
Okay. Right. Investigation is presumably underway.
All right, back to Nigeria. NAPTIBE is involved in a probe.
Yes, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. The Director General has ordered an investigation into really serious allegations against Dr. Daniel Olukoya.
The General Overseer of MFM, Mountain of Fire, and Miracles Ministries.
That's the one. The allegations involve sexual abuse, intimidation, and exploitation. Very serious stuff.
And NAPT is taking it seriously.
Seems so. Their chief press officer, Vincent Adekoye, confirmed they got a petition and are looking into it, stressing their zero-tolerance policy on abuse.
Was there some kind of public pressure?
Yes. This follows a protest outside NRPT headquarters in Abuja by the Concerned Mothers Advocacy Group.
What were they demanding?
A full-scale investigation. They submitted a detailed petition signed by Dipo Olugobi, laying out accusations of sexual assault, blackmail, legal intimidation, even claims of systemic cover-ups within the church leadership.
It's a strong message.
Absolutely. The protesters were clear. Religious leaders shouldn't exploit vulnerability. They want NAPTP to ensure justice.
Okay, let's pivot to the economy in Nigeria. A push for local pharma manufacturing.
That's right. The government is advocating for more local production of pharmaceuticals and vaccines.
Why the push now?
The main driver, according to Olubunmi Arabiana from the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, is boosting Nigeria's medicine security. This was the big theme at a recent conference.
Makes sense, especially after COVID.
Exactly. Mrs. Arabiana explicitly said they don't want to be caught flat-footed, like during the pandemic. Plus, local manufacturing means jobs, potential for trade under the African Free Trade Agreement, and better national security overall.
So better supply, maybe lower costs eventually.
That's the hope. Improve sufficiency, affordability, accessibility, quality, and less reliance on imports, which can be unreliable or expensive.
Is the policy framework there?
Well, Omatayo Hamza from the WHO noted that while policies exist, implementation and coordination between ministries need improvement. But the health ministry says it's committed to policies that attract investment.
And what about vaccine confidence, if they're made locally?
A pharmacist, Chinelo Okonkwo, addressed that. She assured that Nigerian-made vaccines would be effective, meeting all production standards, and might even help combat hesitancy. She also mentioned the risks of parallel imports disrupting the cold chain, which local production avoids.
So learning from COVID, trying to fix costs driven by imports.
Pretty much. Olajide Dubula, who facilitated the conference, mentioned that assessing the sector and finding solutions is key, and government interventions should bring down those high medicine costs linked to imports.
Okay, let's turn to security now. Concerns from Borno State.
Yes, Governor Babagana Zulum has sounded the alarm. He's worried about ISWAP and Boko Haram regrouping.
Where specifically?
In the Lake Chad area, particularly the Tumbas region, and also in the Sambisa forest. He voiced this during a high-level visit from the defense minister and chief of defense staff in Maiduguri.
He feels military operations aren't being sustained.
That's his concern. He lamented a setback, saying terrorists are regrouping without resistance in some areas, and that after military exercises clear an area, the insurgents often just move back in.
And the Lake Chad area is key.
He specifically pointed out that operations haven't really happened on the shores of the Tumbas in Lake Chad, calling it a breeding ground that provides resources for insurgents across multiple regions. He stressed the need for operations in the waterway itself.
So what's he asking for?
More trained manpower, definitely, and more sophisticated military gear. Things like track military tanks, MRAPs, attack helicopters, drones, and crucially, anti-drone equipment too.
Anti-drone? Have drones been used against them?
Apparently so. He reported the last attack in Wolgo was carried out using armed drones.
Is it all about military action, though?
No, he did touch on the non-kinetic approach, mentioned that over 300,000 repentant Boko Haram fighters, including farmers, have surrendered in the last 3 years.
And the response from the federal government?
The defense minister assured him of more support, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Right. Now, another difficult story from Nigeria. Allegations against the police in Rivers State.
Yes, very disturbing. The police are accused of fatally shooting a University of Port Harcourt student, Godwin Akpakpan, and then trying to cover it up.
It's come out.
The family reported him missing back on April 16th after he went to watch an Arsenal match. Later, the police contacted them, told them to go to the state CID homicide department.
What did the police initially say happened?
Their first story was that Army personnel shot Godwin during a search of a minibus where they supposedly found drugs.
The family didn't buy it.
No, they became suspicious because the police account seemed inconsistent. They were kept waiting, got conflicting details from the investigating officer.
Did they see the body?
Yes, eventually at the UPTH mortuary. And what they saw didn't match the initial story. They reported 2 gunshot wounds to his stomach, bruises, and injury on his back.
And inconsistencies about the location, too.
Right. Discrepancies in the address given by the police. The family now believes the police themselves were responsible, not the army, and that the incident happened near Alakaya along the east-west road.
They feel the police obstructed the investigation.
They accused the police of discouraging a proper check of the scene, and they say an Inspector Festus from Homicide took Godwin's body to the mortuary without even informing them.
Has there been any independent corroboration?
Sahara reporters confirmed seeing a bullet hole in the minibus and said photos of Godwin's body seem consistent with the family's description of his injuries.
And the police response to these accusations?
The police public relations officer hasn't commented yet, according to reports. A very troubling situation needing urgent clarification.
Indeed. Okay, let's shift to the international stage. U.S. President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelenskyy met.
Yes, reportedly they had a one-on-one meeting.
Where was this?
In Rome, on the sidelines of Pope Francis's burial, apparently.
What came out of it?
Well, President Zelenskyy posted afterwards calling it a good meeting. Said he hoped for results on things like a full ceasefire and lasting peace. He described it as very symbolic, possibly even historic.
This comes after some pretty strong words from President Trump, right?
It does. Just before this, on Truth Social, President Trump warned Ukraine could end up fighting for 3 more years and potentially lose the country entirely.
He also commented on Crimea, didn't he?
Yes, he condemned Zelensky's refusal to recognize Russia's occupation of Crimea as inflammatory. Said Crimea was lost years ago under Obama and shouldn't be discussed, essentially telling Zelenskyy to choose between peace or losing everything.
Not the first time he's made comments like that.
No, it isn't. And this meeting follows reports that peace talks involving the US, Ukraine, and European officials had stalled earlier.
And Zelensky's position remains consistent.
Yes, he continues to say Ukraine is ready for peace, but accuses Russia of refusing it. Meanwhile, the conflict grinds on. Reports of a recent Russian attack killing 9 civilians. Zelenskyy accused Russia of war crimes over that incident.
A very complex and tragic situation. All right, let's move to the UK. Deportations of Nigerian nationals.
Yes, the UK government confirmed 43 Nigerians were deported recently, part of their wider efforts on immigration control.
Who was on the flight?
It included 15 failed asylum seekers, 11 foreign national offenders who'd finished their prison sentences, and another 7 apparently left voluntarily.
Is this a regular occurrence?
This was the second deportation flight specifically to Nigeria and Ghana since the last general election there, bringing the total on those flights to 87. The UK government talks about increased cooperation with Nigeria on migration.
Are deportations generally up in the UK?
The figures cited say over 24,000 people deported since the current government took office, which is apparently an 11% increase. And removals of foreign national offenders are up 16%, over 3,500 criminals.
And the government assures these are handled humanely.
Yes. State deportations are done in a dignified and respectful manner. The Minister for Border Security, Angela Eagle, framed it as showing international partnership and fixing a broken system.
Okay. Sticking with the UK, but moving to domestic politics, trouble brewing for the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch?
It seems so. Despite being leader for only 6 months, there's already talk about her position being under threat.
Why now?
Well, local elections are coming up, and the Conservatives are expected to do very poorly, lose a lot of seats. Bloomberg reported that over 24 Tory MPs and officials think she's not the right person to lead them into the next general election, which isn't due until 2029.
Is there an alternative candidate being mentioned?
The name cropping up is Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary. The feeling seems to be that Badenoch isn't connecting, poll ratings are bad, she's maybe focusing on the wrong things, and they're getting squeezed by the Reform Party.
Has her team responded?
Her spokesman declined to comment. Jenrick's spokesman pointed to him endorsing her leadership previously. But these local elections next week could be really bad for them, a stark contrast to 2021 when Boris Johnson was popular.
Some analysts are predicting heavy losses.
Professor Rob Ford used the phrase total wipeout. After a brief poll bump in December, the Tories have fallen back again.
So, could a leadership challenge happen sooner than expected?
That's the speculation. Previously, maybe summer 2026 was seen as the earliest point, but if these results are truly awful, it could speed things up. One senior figure apparently called her position the political death zone.
She inherited a tough situation, though, didn't she?
Absolutely. Took over from Rishi Sunak after that massive labor landslide in 2024. But critics, like Scarlett Maguire from Merlin Strategy, say she's struggling to broaden the party's appeal.
What are the specific complaints?
Her defenders say she needs time, but others complain about her political judgment, her focus on culture war issues, and apparently poor performances of Prime Minister's questions, where Starmer has seemingly gotten the better of her recently.
A difficult position.
Yeah.
Okay, one last headline. WhatsApp fighting a fine in Nigeria.
That's right. WhatsApp says it will challenge a tribunal ruling that upheld a huge fine.
How much was the fine?
$220 million imposed by the FCCPC, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
And WhatsApp is appealing.
Yes. They said they're urgently applying to stay the order and appeal. They want to avoid any impact on users.
What's their argument?
They argue WhatsApp itself uses limited data, and they couldn't actually provide the service without relying on Meta's, parent company's infrastructure. They also strongly disagree with the tribunal's findings, claiming multiple inaccuracies and saying the FCCPC misrepresented how WhatsApp works.
But the tribunal sided with the regulator.
It did. It upheld the FCCPC's authority and its conclusions about privacy policy violations and what it called exploitative practices against Nigerian consumers. It dismissed Meta and WhatsApp's main arguments about unfair hearings and jurisdiction.
So the fine stands.
The $220 million fine was reaffirmed, plus about $35,000 in costs to the FCCPC. Only one minor part of the original order was set aside. This came after a really long investigation, 38 months, involving the FCCPC and the Nigerian Data Protection Commission.
And the FCCPC is happy with the outcome.
Yes, the CEO, Tunji Bello, expressed satisfaction and praised their legal team. So a significant regulatory battle there.
Definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
Well, that covers our main headlines for today.
A lot going on across the board.
Thank you for listening to the Today's Top News Headlines on IAM Free Radio and Podcast.